When a pirate ship appeared on the horizon in 1718, the first thing you'd notice wasn't the black flag or the cannons. It was how fast the merchant crew started praying. The prayers made sense. These sailors knew something most of us have forgotten. Real pirate attacks had almost nothing in common with what we see in movies. No choreographed sword fights on the rigging. No gentlemanly exchanges of cannon fire. Just a few minutes of calculated terror designed to break your will before the pirates ever reached your ship. The attack actually began hours before any violence. Pirates spent days, sometimes weeks, stalking their prey like wolves studying a herd. They'd shadow merchant ships from beyond the horizon, watching routines, counting crew, noting armaments. Edward England, who terrorized the African coast in 1718, once tracked a Portuguese merchantman for 6 days before making his move. He wanted to know exactly when they changed watch, when they ate, when they were most vulnerable. Pirates chose their targets with the same care a businessman evaluates an investment. Too small, and the cargo wouldn't be worth the risk. Too large or well-armed, and they'd lose men in the fight. The sweet spot was a mid-sized merchant vessel, loaded with goods but undermanned. Ships returning from the Caribbean, laden with sugar and rum. East India men packed with spices, but running skeleton crews to maximize profit. Slavers carrying human cargo and gold, but often weakened by disease. The approach itself was an art form. Pirates rarely announced themselves immediately. They'd fly false colors, British, French, Spanish, whatever might seem friendly to their target. They'd adjust their course to seem like fellow merchants heading to the same port. Some crews even dressed in merchant sailors' clothes and hid their weapons below deck. The transformation happened in seconds. At a signal from the captain, the false flag came down, the black flag went up, and every hidden gun port flew open. Then came the warning shot, a single cannon blast across the bow, close enough that you'd feel the wind from the ball, hear it tear through the air. The sound would roll across the water, echoing off your hull. That shot carried a simple message: stop, lower your sails, prepare to be boarded, resist, and the next shots won't miss. Most merchant captains understood the mathematics immediately. Their crews were typically 15 to 20 men, many of them boys or old sailors past their prime. The pirate ship closing on them might carry 100 to 150 desperate men, all volunteers, all armed, all with nothing to lose. The merchant sailors made perhaps £1 a month. Was that worth dying for? Was the ship owner's cargo worth their lives? When merchants did choose to fight, what followed was nothing like a Hollywood battle. It was pure, concentrated violence designed to end resistance as quickly as possible. The first broadside came at what pirates called pistol shot range, about 50 yards. Any further and accuracy suffered. Any closer and you risked destroying the prize. Each gun captain fired when ready, creating a rolling thunder of explosions that could last 30 seconds. The sound was beyond deafening. Survivors described being unable to hear for hours afterward, ears bleeding from the concussion. Pirates loaded their cannons with specialized ammunition designed for maximum psychological impact. Chain shot, 2 balls connected by chain, whirled through the air with a distinctive screaming sound before shearing through rigging and sails. Bar shot did the same, but could decapitate a man if he was unlucky enough to be in its path. Grape shot turned cannons into giant shotguns, spraying iron balls across a deck to clear it of defenders. If the merchant crew survived the initial barrage, they had seconds before the pirates were on them. Grappling hooks flew across the gap, biting into wood and rigging. Pirates hauled on the lines, muscles straining, pulling the ships together despite desperate attempts to cut the ropes. The hulls ground together with a sound like breaking bones. The boarding party went over in a wave. First came the grenades, ceramic pots filled with gunpowder, sulfur, and broken iron. They called them stink pots for the choking yellow smoke they produced. Men threw them blind onto the enemy deck, not caring where they landed. The explosions were small, but the psychological effect was huge. Smoke, screams, confusion. Pirates didn't climb over the rails in an orderly fashion. They leaped, screaming, weapons in hand. The first wave carried pistols, multiple pistols. You had one shot with each. No time to reload in the melee. Fire at point-blank range into the smoke. Drop the empty pistol, draw the next. When the pistols were gone, out came the cutlass. The cutlass was perfect for ship combat, short enough to swing in cramped quarters, heavy enough to break through guards, sharp enough to cut through the heavy canvas clothing most sailors wore. Merchant sailors, if they fought at all, usually broke within seconds of boarding. They'd been firing cannons, breathing smoke, deafened by explosions. Now faced with dozens of screaming men wielding bloody blades, most threw down their weapons immediately. Those who didn't rarely lasted long. Pirates attacked in groups, 3 or 4 against one, no concept of fair play. They'd strike from behind, throw sand in eyes, kick groins. Whatever ended the fight fastest. The deck became a hellscape. Blood mixed with seawater and gunpowder to create a slippery black sludge. Men stumbled over bodies and severed limbs. The wounded screamed for quarter, for mercy, for their mothers. The pirates kept coming, stepping over friend and foe alike, pushing toward the helm and the captain's cabin where the ship's papers and valuables were kept. What happened after the fighting ended would have shocked anyone who thought pirates were simply maritime thugs. These men who had just committed acts of brutal violence would transform into something resembling a functioning democracy. The quartermaster, not the captain, took charge of dividing the spoils. This was written into every pirate ship's articles, the legal codes that governed their floating societies. The quartermaster had been elected by the crew specifically for his fairness and his ability to read and do figures. He'd inventory everything: gold, silver, navigational instruments, weapons, cloth, spices, even the ship's medical supplies. While he worked, the crew would gather for what they called the share out. Every man who'd signed the articles got an equal share of the plunder. The captain typically received 2 shares, the quartermaster 1.5, the gunner and boatswain 1.25. But even the newest recruit, the man who'd joined yesterday, got his full share if he'd participated in the taking. The voting that followed would have seemed radical in an age of absolute monarchies. Every decision was put to the crew. Should they keep the captured ship or burn it? Head north to the Carolinas or south to the Caribbean? Attack another vessel spotted on the horizon or avoid it as too risky? One man, one vote. The captain could argue his case, but if the crew voted against him, that was that. The pirates even elected specialized officers. The sailing master for navigation. The surgeon, often a pressed man from a captured ship, but treated well and given extra shares to ensure loyalty. The cook, crucial for morale. Each position filled by vote, each man removable by vote if he failed in his duties. The most successful pirates understood a fundamental truth. Actual violence was expensive. Every battle meant wounded men, damaged ships, depleted ammunition. Better to win through fear alone. Blackbeard turned this into an art form. Before attacking, he'd stick slow-burning fuses into his massive black beard, wreathing his face in smoke. He'd wear all black, strap 6 pistols across his chest, carry 2 cutlasses. In the heat of the Caribbean, this must have been suffocating. But the effect was worth it. Merchant sailors took one look at this demon stepping out of the smoke and threw down their weapons. The numbers support this strategy. Despite his fearsome reputation, researchers can't find a single verified instance of Blackbeard killing anyone before his final battle. Dozens of ships captured, thousands of pounds sterling stolen, an entire city, Charleston, held hostage, all without a confirmed murder. The threat was enough. Other pirates crafted different personas. Charles Vane cultivated unpredictability. He might let one crew go with their clothes and nothing else. The next might be tortured for hiding valuables. Sailors never knew which Vane they'd get, so they gave up everything immediately, hoping for mercy. Bartholomew Roberts chose overwhelming force as his calling card. He'd attack with multiple ships, surrounding his prey, making resistance obviously futile. His fleet grew to over 400 men at its peak. When that many pirates approached, flying Roberts's distinctive flags, most captains surrendered before the first cannon fired. Pirates also manipulated naval tactics to enhance their reputations. They'd attack at dawn when men were groggy. They'd strike during storms when naval vessels wouldn't pursue. They'd use captured ships as decoys, approaching under friendly flags until too late. Each trick added to their mystique as unstoppable forces of nature. The flags themselves became weapons of psychological warfare. When Bartholomew Roberts created a new flag showing himself drinking tea with death, he wasn't just being artistic. He was saying he was so comfortable with death, they were friends. The message to merchants was clear: this man has nothing to lose. Every decision pirates made during an attack came down to profit calculation. Dead men couldn't sail prize ships back to port. Sunk vessels yielded no cargo. Excessive violence might satisfy bloodlust, but it was bad for business. When pirates took a ship, they needed that crew alive and functional. A typical pirate crew of 100 men might capture 3 or 4 vessels in quick succession. They couldn't possibly sail all these ships themselves. They needed captured sailors to do it, at least until they reached a friendly port where the vessels could be sold or stripped. This created strange situations. Pirates would terrorize a crew into submission, then immediately try to recruit them. Better wages than the merchant service, they'd promise. Equal shares of plunder. Freedom to leave when you please. Many sailors, especially those pressed into service against their will, found the offer tempting. The pirates who'd just threatened their lives were offering better working conditions than their legal employers. The handling of cargo revealed pirate priorities. Gold and silver were obviously kept. But pirates also valued things landlubbers might ignore. Medical supplies were worth their weight in gold. A ship's medicine chest could mean the difference between life and death from wounds or tropical diseases. Navigational instruments, especially good compasses and astrolabes, were highly prized. Charts of unknown waters were treasures in themselves. Food and alcohol required careful judgment. Pirates needed supplies, but overloading made ships slow and vulnerable. They'd take the best, wine, brandy, preserved meats, and often destroy the rest. Nothing demoralized a merchant crew more than watching pirates axe open water casks or throw food overboard. It sent a message: we take what we want and waste what we don't. Sometimes the calculated terror didn't work. Sometimes merchant crews fought back. Sometimes naval patrols appeared. When pirates faced real resistance, their true nature showed through. In 1718, the merchant ship Samuel caught pirates trying to board at night. The merchants had hidden most of their crew below decks. When the pirates climbed aboard expecting easy victory, dozens of armed sailors erupted from the hatches. The pirates, outnumbered for once, fled back to their ship and sailed away. Naval encounters were worse. Pirates knew their converted merchant ships couldn't match purpose-built warships in firepower or durability. When HMS Swallow found Bartholomew Roberts's fleet off Africa in 1722, Roberts tried to run. His ship was faster, but bad luck intervened. A lucky shot from Swallow killed Roberts instantly, grape shot to the throat. Without their charismatic leader, the crew's morale collapsed. They surrendered after a brief fight. Some pirates chose suicide over capture. They knew the penalty for piracy was death, usually preceded by a show trial where the outcome was predetermined. Rather than face the noose, they'd blow up their ship's powder magazine. In 1717, when surrounded by naval vessels, the pirate Captain Thompson lit a fuse to his powder store. The explosion killed most of his crew instantly. The few survivors were so badly burned they died before reaching port. Others tried bargaining. The pirate captain Condent, cornered in the Indian Ocean, offered to surrender his ship and most of his treasure if his crew could go free. The offer was refused. He escaped only by abandoning his ship at night, his men rowing away in small boats, leaving behind everything they'd spent years accumulating. By 1730, the numbers had turned against piracy. What changed wasn't morality or law, it was mathematics. The Royal Navy had grown exponentially. In 1700, pirates might go months without seeing a warship. By 1725, naval patrols crisscrossed the Caribbean and Atlantic. The odds of encountering one had increased tenfold. Each encounter meant likely death. Colonial governments had learned to cooperate. Before, a pirate could flee from British waters to French or Spanish territory. Now, all three empires shared intelligence. A pirate spotted off Jamaica would find warships waiting in Martinique. The safe havens were disappearing. The merchants had adapted too. They sailed in convoys now, protected by armed escorts. Insurance companies, tired of paying for pirate losses, funded private submarine vessels. The easy, isolated targets pirates relied on were becoming extinct. Economics played its part. The wars that created unemployed privateers had ended. National navies were hiring again. Legitimate work was available for skilled sailors. Why risk the noose for plunder when you could earn steady wages legally? The pardons offered in 1718 split pirate crews. When King George offered amnesty to any pirate who surrendered, hundreds took it. This created a new problem for those who didn't. Pardoned pirates often became pirate hunters, using their insider knowledge against former brothers. Benjamin Hornigold, Blackbeard's mentor, died hunting his former colleagues. Technology was changing too. Ships were faster, better armed. Navigation was improving. The secret coves and hidden islands pirates relied on were being mapped. The world was shrinking, leaving fewer dark corners for outlaws to hide in. The final blow was public opinion. The romanticism would come later. In the 1720s, pirates were seen as enemies of all mankind. Newspapers printed lurid accounts of their crimes. Merchants petitioned constantly for protection. The political will to exterminate piracy had solidified. The trials of captured pirates became public spectacles. In 1722, after Roberts's crew was captured, 52 men were hanged in a single mass execution. Their bodies were left in chains at harbour entrances, rotting in iron cages as warnings. The message was clear: the age of tolerance was over. Some pirates saw the writing on the wall and tried to adapt. They moved to Madagascar, to the Red Sea, to the Pacific. But the same forces followed them. By 1730, the Golden Age was effectively over. Piracy would continue in scattered forms, but never again would bands of democratic thieves control entire sea lanes. The mathematics that had once favoured piracy, lots of targets, few patrols, many safe havens, had reversed. The rational calculation that turned sailors into pirates now kept them in legitimate service. The Golden Age ended not with some climactic battle, but with a simple recognition: the numbers no longer added up. What remains is the central irony of pirate warfare. These men perfected a system of violence so efficient it rarely required actual violence. They created terror so complete that most victims surrendered without a fight. They fought not for glory or nation, but for pure profit, and in doing so revealed truths about fear, power, and human nature that navies and governments would rather have kept hidden. When we strip away the Hollywood glamour, what we find is both more mundane and more fascinating than fiction. Not swashbuckling heroes, but desperate men making rational choices. The real pirate battle was won or lost before the first shot was fired. In those moments when the black flag rose and the merchant captain had to decide fight or surrender, the entire brutal arithmetic of the Golden Age played out. Most chose surrender. They were probably right.